Welcome back to The Explainer. Okay, so today we're diving straight into an incredibly fascinating ancient text, the interpretation of knowledge. We're going to unpack its core arguments about human connection, spirituality, and, the very nature of what it actually means to know something. Let's just jump right in.
Right out of the gate, the text hits us with this massive paradigm shift. It says knowledge isn't just a quiet, internal enlightenment or some passive collection of facts. No, it is an active, vital cure for the division that dwells within us. I mean, think about that for a second. We usually treat learning as a way to, build up our own individual intellectual reservoirs. But this text, it totally reframes true knowledge as medicinal. It's literally designed to heal something broken inside of us.
And hey, if you've ever felt a profound sense of isolation, and let's be honest, who hasn't? The author is speaking directly to you here. The default human experience is so often one of deep division, right? Feeling totally cut off from each other and from some greater reality. Well, the knowledge we're talking about today is presented as the exact antidote to that existential separation.
So how exactly does this cure actually work? Well, according to the theological framework of the text, humanity is currently stuck in this state of lack or emptiness. But then, the figure of the Son arrives with one very specific mission, to pull us back into pleroma. Now, in this context, pleroma translates to ultimate divine fullness. It's the absolute polar opposite of our current divided state. We're talking about a state of total absolute completeness, where literally nothing is missing.
But the Son doesn't just snap his fingers and magically make this pleroma happen. There's actually a very specific mechanism bridging the massive gap between our current emptiness and that ultimate fullness. And the author uses a really recognizable, highly physical symbol to explain this whole transition. The argument here is that the Son took on the form of humiliation in the cross, but, and this is key, not just as an end in itself. He did this specifically to transform that cross into a functional bridge connecting humanity to immortality. It's kind of this fascinating three-step architectural repurposing. The humiliation and the physical cross actually stop being mere instruments of suffering, and they become the literal structure that allows humanity to cross over from division and lack right into eternal fullness.
Now here's where things get really, really interesting. The text abruptly pivots away from all these grand cosmic metaphors about immortality and drops us right back down to earth, directly addressing our literal human connections with one another. It's a literal wake-up call to the reader. He who has ears to hear, let him understand. Basically, the author is explaining what this divine fullness actually looks like in practice, and guess what? It looks like recognizing that you are not some isolated entity, but a functioning limb of a single massive body.
Building on that body metaphor, the source outlines these various roles to argue that while our abilities differ wildly, they are absolutely all essential. Just think about the people around you. Some speak bold prophecies, while others, just quietly listen. Some possess deep, complex knowledge, while others hold a very simple faith. But the crucial argument here is that all of these, from the most seemingly profound to the most basic, are gifts from one shared spirit. And that spirit deliberately divided itself in order to fill every single person with a unique piece of the whole.
And this brings us to a massive warning against spiritual ego. The text insists that the person with deep esoteric knowledge must never, ever look down on someone who holds a simple, quiet faith. In the exact same way, the prophet who speaks boldly should never despise the person whose role is simply to listen. By weighing these traits side by side, the text completely dismantles the whole idea of a spiritual hierarchy. No one gift is fundamentally better than another, simply because they all originate from the exact same source.
So the crucial point here is that we have to recognize ourselves as interconnected limbs of a single body, rather than competing individuals fighting for some kind of spiritual status. I mean, think about your own hands and ears, right? They perform totally different functions, but it would be completely absurd for them to compete or envy one another. That is exactly the perspective this text is asking us to adopt. When we realize we're just different expressions of the same spirit, that envy just naturally dissolves.
This brings us to the true paradox of the text, and honestly, probably its most profound statement. Real knowledge isn't about intellectual superiority. It's not about winning an argument or knowing more trivia than your neighbor. No, true knowledge, as is defined here, is recognizing our fundamental, inescapable unity with each other. To truly know is to look at another person and realize, I am in you and you are in me. It totally redefines wisdom, taking it from something you just hold in your head to something you actually practice in relationships.
Now, right before reaching its climax, the text throws in this concept of eons, which are basically these profound, mind-bending, eternal secrets of the universe. But it brings up these massive concepts for a really surprising reason, to warn us about the danger of pure, unfeeling intellect. It's setting the stage to show us exactly what happens when we pursue the secrets of the cosmos but completely forget about the actual people standing right in front of us.
The contrast the text lays out here is severe, and it is uncompromising. Loving your brother brings you into the light. But if you despise your brother, you remain in total ignorance. And here's the real kicker. You remain in ignorance even if you intellectually understand all the secrets of the eons. Think about that. You could have mapped the entire cosmos, decoded the greatest mysteries of existence, achieved total intellectual mastery. But if you harbor hatred or contempt for your fellow human beings, this text considers you entirely ignorant.
Which leads us straight to the ultimate transformative takeaway from the source material. Love is the ultimate form of knowledge. Without love, all other intellectual or spiritual knowledge is just useless. It's such a fascinating conclusion, right? Because it takes a text that starts out talking about high theology and cosmic fullness, and it grounds it entirely in human compassion. Remember that cure for our division that was mentioned right at the beginning? Well, it turns out that cure is unequivocally love.
Ultimately, this leads to one final transformation. Through love, our theoretical, internal knowledge actually steps out of the mind and into the real world. It becomes an action. And as a result of that action, our isolated individual silence is transformed into a shared, harmonious song of unity. We go from being disconnected individuals stumbling around in the dark to a unified chorus standing in the light.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to consider as you go about your day. Based on everything we've explored from this incredible source text, take a moment to evaluate your own pursuits. Is the knowledge you are seeking isolating you, or is it connecting you to others? Will your knowledge remain a quiet individual light, or will it turn into a song of unity? Thanks for joining me on this deep dive. See you next time.